You'll be walking our dog and making a $3,000 monthly contribution. My husband's family demanded before the wedding ceremony. I almost laughed. Excuse me? My in-laws mistook my modesty and silence for weakness, but they messed with the wrong bride. My name is Skylar. I'm 38 years old, a practicing attorney, and until recently, I had completely accepted the idea that I might never get married. Not because I didn't want to, but because I'd spent the better part of the last decade working 16-hour days in our family law firm in Boston. My mother is a partner. My father started the firm. My sister is a contract specialist. I grew up watching legal briefs instead of cartoons. Somewhere along the way, birthdays blurred, relationships fizzled, and when I looked up, I was almost 40, still single. I wasn't desperate, but I was tired. Tired of shallow texts, flaky first dates, and men who found my ambition threatening. I wasn't looking for fireworks anymore. I was looking for quiet, steadiness. That's when Natalie, a longtime friend, messaged me. You should try this. It's not an app. It's a real event. She sent me the link to a private matchmaking mixer hosted by a boutique dating agency for professionals over 35. I laughed. Then I clicked. 2 weeks later, I stood in front of my mirror in a navy silk blouse and tailored pants, reminding myself to smile like I wasn't judging everyone in the room. The mixer was at a rooftop bar downtown. The crowd, polished, nervous, sipping overpriced cocktails and subtly scanning for rings. I had barely settled near the bar when he approached me. First time? He asked. I nodded. You? Yeah, hopefully last. His name was Daniel, mid-40s, construction project manager. He wasn't flashy, but there was a calmness about him. I liked a sort of quiet maturity. He asked thoughtful questions. He made eye contact. He didn't dominate the conversation, and he didn't ask what kind of law I practiced. I liked that even more. We spent the entire evening talking. No forced mingling. Just us leaning over the railing, watching the city lights flicker. That night, I told myself not to overthink it. But when he texted me the next day, I smiled. Our first real date was dinner in Beacon Hill, then a walk by the river, then Sunday brunch. He was consistent, attentive. He talked about wanting to settle down, about building a life that felt slower. He said he imagined his future wife staying home, taking care of the home, maybe his parents when they got older. I didn't correct his assumptions. I didn't mention my caseload, my courtroom hours, or the Harvard law diploma hanging in my office. I just said I helped out with the family firm. It wasn't a lie, just strategically vague. For the first time in years, I felt safe with someone. Not thrilled, not electrified, but safe. A month later, he met my parents. My father grilled him about construction permits. My sister Rachel smirked knowingly. My mother, Evelyn, watched him like she was reading a deposition. After he left, she said, "He's polite. A little naive, but harmless." "He wants me to quit my job," I said. "Do you want to?" "I might, if it means something real." She didn't protest. She just said, "Jobs are replaceable." Peace of mind isn't Daniel proposed 6 weeks later. Simple. Over coffee. "You call me," he said. "I want to build a life with you." I said, "Yes." I surprised myself by how quickly I jumped into wedding planning. We found a beautiful estate just outside the city, exposed brick, soft gardens, a perfect June date. His family was smaller, just his parents, Carol and Warren, and an older brother with his own family. Mine was larger, louder, full of lawyers and long-winded toasts. The first time our families met for brunch, I saw it immediately. We were from 2 different planets. My parents dressed like they were walking into arbitration. His parents arrived in sweatshirts, arguing loudly about the parking. Carol looked me up and down. "You're very polished," she said like it was a warning. I smiled. "Thank you. I hope you're not too busy to cook. My Warren can't stand store-bought food." "Actually, Skylar's an excellent cook," my mother replied smoothly. "But we order in when we're tired of perfection." That evening, she pulled me aside. "Are you sure?" "They're not horrible," I said. "Just different. They're not your problem now, but they will be." I ignored the tightness in my chest. The next few weeks flew by. Fittings, guest lists, menu tastings. Daniel didn't contribute much. He just smiled and said, "Whatever you want." On the surface, everything looked like a Pinterest dream. Beneath it, I felt like I was rehearsing someone else's life. The night before the wedding, I stayed at my parents' house. Rachel brought champagne. My mom pressed my gown one last time. We laughed like it was a sleepover. "You ready to be someone's wife?" Rachel teased. I'm ready to rest, I said. To not argue every day. You don't argue, she said. You cross-examine. The morning of the wedding was warm and golden. The bridal suite overlooked the garden. Staff brought in coffee and fresh pastries. My dress hung like a cloud on a brass rack. I curled my hair and sat at the vanity while Rachel adjusted my veil. My mother sat near the window, flipping through the program. You look beautiful, she said without glancing up, like a woman who wins settlements and hearts. I smiled. I'm not nervous. You shouldn't be. It's not court. You can say no if you want. I'm not saying no. She looked at me then, long and steady. Okay. There was a knock at the door. Rachel started to rise, but the door swung open hard. Standing there without invitation were Carol and Warren, dressed in full formal wear, smiling like nothing was wrong. The bridal suite fell silent. The air shifted like someone had just cracked open a window in winter. My mom remained still, her hands folded over her lap as Carol stepped farther into the room without waiting for permission. We need a quick word with Skylar before the ceremony, she said, brushing invisible lint off her skirt. Just a few family matters. My mom slowly rose from the chair. This isn't the place. Oh, come on, Carol replied cheerfully. It'll just take a minute. Warren followed behind her like a shadow, offering a nod that was somehow both polite and smug. My sister hovered near the vanity, unsure whether to intervene or run for help. I stood still in my wedding gown and asked carefully, Is something wrong? Carol's smile widened. Nothing at all, dear. We just want to make sure expectations are aligned before things are made official. My mom moved closer to me, but said, Nothing yet. Here's the thing, Carol began, folding her hands in front of her. After the ceremony, you'll be coming to live with us. I blinked. I what? It just makes more sense, Warren added. Daniel's brother moved out years ago. We've got the space, and you don't have kids or a job now, so there's no reason to waste money on some fancy condo. I turned to look at my mom, who was now staring at them with a perfectly unreadable expression. We were planning to move into the penthouse we leased, I said. That's canned, Carol said briskly. There's no need for that anymore. Warren stepped forward. And because you'll be living under our roof, we expect a reasonable monthly contribution. $3,000 should cover it, plus any holiday bonuses. Those should go to the household. I almost laughed. Excuse me. You heard us, Carol said. That's what daughters-in-law do in real families. They support their elders. And since you won't be working, Warren added, we'll need you to walk Bella twice a day. She's our beagle. She gets anxious if she doesn't get her morning and afternoon walks. My mouth opened, but no words came out. And before you protest, Carol went on, we're only saying this now because once the ceremony happens, there's no backing out. Better to be clear up front. My mom took one step forward. Just so I understand, are you seriously suggesting that my daughter give up her home, her income, and her autonomy to walk your dog and pay rent in your house? That's the agreement, Warren said. I finally found my voice. Does Daniel know about this? He's our son, Carol snapped. He trusts us. And if he didn't agree, he would have said something. My mom let out a quiet, disbelieving laugh. You barged into her bridal suite with demands and didn't think this might be received as hostile. Carol waved her hand. It's not personal. It's just how we do things. My mom looked at me and asked calmly, Do you still want to go through with this? I couldn't speak. I felt like the floor had tilted beneath me. My hands were trembling, but something inside me clicked. No, I said. No, I don't. Carol's face dropped. Excuse me? My mom gently placed her hand on my back. Let's go. Oren's voice rose. You're really walking away from this. From Daniel? I'm walking away from you, I replied. You think you can embarrass us and get away with it? Carol snapped. We'll sue for damages. We'll ruin your reputation. You're welcome to try, my mom said, her voice like steel. But I should probably tell you, our entire family are attorneys. And if you'd like to test the law on the matter of coercion, go ahead. I watched their mouths tighten. Have a wonderful afternoon, my mom said. We're done here. We walked out of that bridal suite without another word. I changed in silence, barely hearing my mom on the phone canceling the ceremony logistics. My sister drove us back to the city in her car, and for a full hour no one said a thing. Daniel called that night. I didn't know, he said. I swear I didn't approve any of that. My mom, she just... But you didn't stop it. I said, you let them take over. You gave them permission without saying a word. I didn't know what they were planning. You didn't ask. There was silence on the line. I'm sorry, he said eventually. I didn't want to lose you. You lost me the second you stood behind them instead of beside me. The call ended. I blocked his number that night. I thought that would be the end of it, but my sister had other plans. Apparently, while helping me get dressed earlier that morning, she'd left her phone on the table recording. Not intentionally. She'd been using the video camera to capture candid shots of me in the mirror adjusting my dress. But it had caught everything. Carol's demands, Warren's smug agreement, the full unfiltered monologue, and Rachel, my brilliant sister, didn't waste a second. By the time the wedding guests had taken their seats, wondering why the ceremony hadn't started, Rachel had connected her phone to the estate's AV system. The staff tried to stop her, but she just said, "Trust me, this needs to be seen." The lights dimmed and the video played. There I was, standing in my wedding dress, looking stunned as Carol and Warren announced that I'd be walking their dog twice a day and paying them $3,000 a month for the privilege of living in their home. The room was silent. You could hear a pin drop. When the clip ended, Rachel's voice came over the speaker. "There will be no wedding today. Thank you for understanding." Gasps, whispers. A few guests got up and left immediately. Some stayed, stunned in place. I wasn't there to witness it, but I heard about it from several cousins, 2 friends, and the florist. It was the most memorable wedding that never happened, and the most satisfying moment I never saw with my own eyes. The morning after the canceled wedding, I sat at the kitchen table in a t-shirt, barefoot, sipping burnt coffee my dad had brewed at 6 a.m. The silence in the house was heavy, not tense, just full. Full of what almost was. My mom came in carrying a yellow folder and dropped it gently beside me. "What's this?" I asked. "Breakdown of what they owe us." I flipped it open. The total was brutal. Venue cancellation fees, catering, flowers, hair and makeup, photographer deposit, transportation, custom signage. It added up to more than I wanted to admit. "We'll invoice them formally," she said with a video as supporting evidence. "If they refuse, we take it to small claims court." I looked up. "We're really doing this." She arched one brow. "You think we're letting them walk away clean after what they did?" Fair enough. That afternoon, I signed the demand letter. A courier delivered it by hand to their home the next morning. By noon, Daniel's family lawyer called to negotiate. They tried to offer half. We declined. By Friday, they agreed to pay everything in full. No lawsuit, no fuss. On the condition that we signed a non-disparagement clause, we added one sentence. The non-disparagement clause applies to public interviews and commercial publications. Private conversations and legally obtained recordings are exempt. They signed it. I never spoke to Daniel again. Not in person, not by phone. Just one final email from him titled, "I'm sorry," full of excuses. I didn't know they'd do that. I didn't think it would go that far. I thought you'd be flexible. I love you. I wanted us to work. I read it once, then deleted it. You don't get to love someone while silently watching them be dismantled. You don't get to stay neutral in a war your parents start. Weeks passed, then months. I went back to the office on a Tuesday. I skipped lunch for a hearing. I picked up extra clients. I stayed late every night. At first, it was about distraction. But slowly, I felt more like myself again. One afternoon in October, a familiar name showed up on our case intake list. Lucas. We'd gone to law school together. Same study group, same brutal torts professor. We'd both passed the bar early, both too proud to admit how much we pushed each other. I hadn't seen him in nearly 10 years. When he walked into the conference room, I did a double take. "You got taller," I said. "You got famous?" he replied. "My cousin sent me a clip of your wedding video." I groaned. "Please don't quote it. I won't." But between the legal takedown and the exit dress, that was iconic. We worked on the case together for 6 weeks. Lucas had gone corporate. and international finance, the kind of law that came with 6-figure retainers and soul erosion. But he still had fire, still challenged everything I said, still argued for sport. I loved it. And then one night after winning a particularly complicated arbitration, he asked, "Do you ever think maybe the real tragedy isn't when something ends, but when it almost begins?" I stared at him. "Are you asking me on a date or quoting your therapist?" "Both," he said. We started slow. Dinners, museum nights, a weekend in Cape Cod. He asked my dad for permission to sit at his poker table. My sister ran background checks on him for fun. My mom invited him to Sunday dinners and waited to see if he reached for his wallet. He did. A year later, he proposed. Not on one knee, not with fanfare. We were on the couch, exhausted from depositions, splitting Chinese takeout when he handed me a ring box. "If you're willing," he said, "I'd really like to be the one who's on your side when the next storm hits." I didn't cry. I just said finally. We got married quietly in the Boston Public Garden. No guests, no speeches, just vows, papers, and a photographer we hired on Craigslist. The next day we went back to work, and one spring afternoon, 2 years later, we sat on a picnic blanket in the park while our daughter, Grace, chased Bubbles across the grass. She had Lucas's curls in my side eye. She was fearless and loud and laughed like she'd invented joy. As she ran in circles, Lucas handed me a bottle of water. "You're staring," he said. "I'm thinking dangerous. I'm thinking about how close I came to giving it all away." He smiled. "You mean the dog walking arrangement?" "Exactly. And the rent and the beagle." He leaned back on one arm would have been tragic. I would have lasted 2 days before setting fire to the living room rug. He laughed. "That's when I saw him, Daniel. He was across the park holding the hand of a woman with kind eyes. They had a baby in a carrier, a toddler trailing behind them with a juice pouch. They looked fine, peaceful, average. He saw me. I nodded once. He nodded back. Nothing more. Lucas glanced over. "Friend of yours? Ghost?" I said from a different life. He said nothing. Just reached out, laced his fingers through mine, and pulled me close. Grace fell onto the blanket, giggling. "Mommy, I won," she shouted. "You did," I said. "You always do." And I meant it, all of it. I didn't get the wedding I planned. I didn't wear the dress I bought. I didn't become the wife someone else had in mind. But I found my family on my terms in my time. And nothing, not a beagle, not a $3,000 rent invoice, not a single demand dressed as tradition, was ever going to take that from me.